What is your favorite anime?
Mine's Skrillex.
Skrillex.
I'm so distanced from human sensibilities and stuff.
Was getting caught part of your plan?
Put your tray tables up and your seat in the full upright position, because this is The Flight Plan, the official podcast of Big Guy 4U Scanlations, Japan's #1 Bane posting manga scanlation podcast. Join the flight crew, Tom and Aidan, as we bounce about all the anime, the manga, and the scanlation content. What are we talking about today, Tom?
Kind of a mixed bag of topics. Doing like Omake pages, like cover pages, 0.5 chapters, and the difference kind of between magazine releases and volume releases.
That's a lot of different things.
It kind of all works together, though. You know,
does it? Okay.
They're all kind of tiny topics. I think that they thematically belong together in a way.
I wish there was something we could like wrap it up in, like associated chapters or
miscellaneous topics. Well, I do have a secret topic that I think we might end up spending most of the episode on, which is completely unrelated. So
this is going to make it very difficult for me to title the episode when we have.
We'll title it afterwards, after we find out what we talked about.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great thing. Well, as per our normal tradition, do you have anything to correct in the corrections corner?
The only thing, and this is, I guess, in the spirit of the corrections corner, in that it's so minor, nobody cares. But I think last episode I was talking about the Pokemon characters, Nurse Joy and Officer Ginny. And I think I said Nurse Joy and Nurse Ginny. So just wanted to clear that out.
Wow. I know we actually had, there were petitions and hashtags going around to make sure that we, that basically I disavow you for your grievous misstep last episode in that regard. But
right.
I stood by you.
Right move.
Yeah, I stood by you, and I didn't disavow, because if you do disavow and you show weakness, then they go after you next. So
very true, but it's a very tough choice to make, especially since it's an election year.
I know.
So I hope your gamble will pay off for you.
And it was a grievous mistake on your part, something that is indeed almost unforgivable.
Not worth the Sudoku tally though, so I think I'm good there. What about you? Do you have anything? I think you said you had comments or something, right?
Well, we have the best passengers because they're so interactive with our content. It makes it all worth it. I don't actually remember, since we record on different days, I don't remember how many days ago all these comments were. So some of these might even be from last week, but we've on episode 9 post show about 6 days ago. Nikki came in and said, how to cook video win, because we talked a little bit about making pulled pork in a crock pot in the post show.
It turned out really well, by the way.
Did it? That's good to hear.
I thought I would have to throw it away because it looked really disgusting. But
it'll boil the fat up, and you just kind of render some of the fat out.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
On the last episode 10 main chapter, Charlie Saint comes back and he says, maybe the real flight plan was the friends we made along the way.
I don't know what you said, but if it were me, I would have said something like, you're not allowed to bring friends, or something like that.
Oh, that would have been an excellent one, but too bad I've never actually...
you don't get to bring friends. That's the exact quote.
Well, I've never actually seen the Bane posting scene enough to memorize it. But
I'm telling you, you just got to listen to the song and you'll remember it. You'll memorize it really easily.
What I ended up saying to him was, you didn't need to plan. The flight was inside you all along. It was something ridiculous. It wasn't Bane posting, but it's funny enough that it was there. We actually had a comment just yesterday from Imya Familia, which was written in Cyrillic, which my Russian is very poor, but I think if I recall from Russian 101 in college, his name is basically translated to first name, last name.
Nuh-uh. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. He said, cool video, guys. I'm surprised that you only have 10 subs with that high production quality. Now, you could think he's sarcastic. Us? Yeah, that was my first.
I'm about to trade hands with this guy, Mr. Russian.
You about to catch these hands, but then he said, "You got +1 sub," and I looked, and it's like you did sub, so it wasn't sarcasm. So that's nice. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How do you say thank you in Russian?
Oh man, I should really know this. I can say hello in a couple of different ways.
The only words I know are da and vodka
And
volka, which is water.
And yeah, so it's like almost exactly the same word. You can say privyet, which is hi, or strastvieta, which is like a more formal hello. But that's all I really remember.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to, before we get into the main topic, I kind of want to do my secret topic and bring it up a little bit.
Let's just make that the main topic.
We might, because I'm a lot more interested in that right now. I do this thing where I get on kicks, something will grab my attention, and then that's like my number one interest for that time period or whatever. And this one's your fault, because last episode we were talking about, I said I wanted to do like game translation. I wanted to try that out. And you said, oh, you should do a Medabots game. So then I've been looking into it, and now that's kind of what I want to do. I want to work on scanlating or whatever, a Medabots game.
Are there any that are not I know there's like 5
Game Boy RPGs, like Game Boy and Game Boy Color, and then there's like 4 or 5 3DS ones as well.
Yeah, you should do one of those. I think that would be cooler.
I don't know which one would be easier tools wise, because you have to do like a lot of hacking, and that's a lot to learn.
Yeah, but it might even be like already pre-made, and there might, like, if you just look at like translation patches or some type of software to do that, there might be easy like formulaic guides to do it.
Yeah, to an
extent, that would be sweet.
But every game requires a lot of specific hacking, and there is, however, a group that I guess they've disbanded or something. They haven't posted in a year or two, but they did most of the first Game Boy game. It's completely translated, and it's mostly hacked, as I understand it.
You could always finish that up, but...
Well, I wouldn't want to snipe them even if they're disbanded. Also, the first game's terrible, because as part of my research, I played some of the first one and some of the third one, and the first one is really, really rough around the edges.
Yeah,
but the third one's really cool, so that's what I might look into. There's also the 3DS one that we talked about, where you play with all the girls, and when you beat them, their clothes get ripped.
I was super excited for that one, because it's also like a custom Robo Little Battlers, like 3D fighting sim, and it's like, that's my favorite type of gameplay for Medabots. But when we look through a Let's Play, it looks like there's no overworld or anything, and I really, really like an overworld with that type of thing. Like Little Battlers has that, even though there's so much freaking... I don't know if we talked about this in the podcast, but...
I think we did.
Yeah, but there's too much dialogue in many of these games, and especially the ones that are... I don't want to say children's games, but the younger demographic ones like Little Battlers and Pokemon and stuff. It's like, wow. You know, Pokemon Red and Blue didn't have this, and I figured out how to do it. Like, you don't need all this explanation. I don't need all this story. Like, let me play the game a little bit before you give me the story. I don't want to do like, Kingdom Hearts is like awful and notorious for this. Kingdom Hearts 2. It's a 4-hour tutorial, basically, is before you even start the game.
That one does have narrative parts to it, though.
But it's awful. I'm not a game theory guy, but you need to be able, when you start a game, to get hooked on the actual gameplay very soon. The tutorial needs to be starts you in a battle or something where you can, like, I don't want to do 4 hours of talking to Professor Oak before I can even get into a Pokemon battle. Like, I understand the narrative reason for that, but I want to get into some of the gameplay to see if I'm even going to like it. I mean, I don't want to do this big expository narrative type of thing, because I'm not... They want you to get invested in the characters, but the best way to do that is not with a bunch of text and cutscenes for me. It's like, let me play the game a little bit, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool kind of power that they're using. Like, maybe I'll learn more about this character after the fact. Get me hooked on the gameplay first, but it's kind of a diversion. Anyway, there's no overworld in the Girls' Generation Medabots, but I think there is.
Girls' Mission, I think it's actually called.
Well, that's the other game. I think there is an overworld on the mainline series of Medabots, but it doesn't have the custom robo fighting. It has like an RPG style, which is pretty sweet, because I remember the Game Boy Advance Medabots game that I played. I even just replayed it a couple of years ago, and it holds up really well. It's super hard. It's very hard.
Yeah, it is, and that's a remake of the second Game Boy one.
See, I didn't know that until just recently.
That's why, in terms of if I look further into actually, translating one of these, I think I would go with number 3. Number 1 is too crazy. It's too, I don't know, difficult to get into. Like, the gameplay is really rough, and, the whole thing is just like a beta, basically, it feels like. Then 2 is the GBA one, which has an official release in English, and then 3 is the sequel.
So I would definitely recommend to any passengers that have ever watched Medabots as a kid or are interested in a cool type of RPG where you can, I mean, we all probably know what Medabots is, but they're little robots that you teach to fight, kind of like Pokemon, but like you can mix and match their parts. Like you can give them a gun arm or a sword arm, maybe their legs, maybe they have like tractor legs or wheels or something, and it's just so cool. They fight. It's fun stuff. I would definitely recommend go find an emulator or pick up on eBay the old Game Boy Advance Medabots game. It's so cool, but it's an old style game in the sense that it's very unforgiving. You can miss. You have to win parts from your enemies. Let's say you only have so many chances to get a certain part, and if you miss it by just pure luck, you miss it and you don't get it again. And it's like, I wanted to collect Pepper Cat parts.
Well, they wanted you to trade. That was that whole thing. They incentivized trading, which is dumb.
Yeah, and it's a dumb way to do it.
The whole Pokemon gimmick.
It's like we were just talking about offline, I think it was, how the worst evolutions on Pokemon are the ones you have to trade to evolve. First of all, if you are doing that with like a stranger or something, you don't even get to see your Pokemon evolve.
Yeah,
like
it's kind of like NTR.
Yeah,
your Pokemon NTR.
Yeah, you'd think Pokemon was made by Koreans or something. I don't understand it. I think one of the reasons why I actually suggested one of the Medabots games is there's a big actual cult following. Every once in a while I'll find a Medabots thread and people will talk about, like, there was even a petition a couple years ago when I was really looking into it to get Nintendo to translate the Medabot 3DS games.
Yeah,
it's like, obviously they're not going to.
Petitions don't do anything.
But it did have a lot of signatures, which means if you did translate, probably one of the earlier ones too would work, but I really think there'd be a bigger audience if you did one of the 3DS ones. Like, if you did whatever the most recent one is, like, shoot, I'd help with that. That's pretty sweet.
There actually is, I think, an effort. I didn't check the dates on the posts or anything, but there's an effort to do 9, which is the last 3DS mainline RPG one.
What year did that come out? Was that 2017 or?
I want to say 15. It was right before Girls Mission, based on my research.
So it's actually pretty old. It's one of the earlier 3DS games.
Something that's kind of neat. I haven't actually looked at them, but I've kind of read a bit about them. First 3 Game Boy ones also had like a spin-off game. Each one had its own spin-off game called like Parts Collect. That was more like a casualized version where it was, I think it still had battles, but it was an easier way to get all the parts and stuff to try to play around in kind of more of a sandbox environment. I think you could, yeah.
That's so cool. That's a cool way to do it. Like, imagine if there was like a Safari Zone Pokemon game.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be like.
Oh, you know what it is? And you're not going to like the comparison, but it's Pokemon Go compared to the new Pokemon Pikachu Go or whatever.
Oh, how similar. Yeah, I could see that.
So it's like a mix, even though they're like completely different games. I hope they're different games because the gameplay of Pokemon Go is not that great.
No, I think they're more like the mainline Pokemon games, battle system wise. In my wildest LARP fantasies, what I would want to do is say translate Medabots 3. If it's like easy enough, then I would just like do the parts collector maybe, and then maybe 4 and 5, which I think are also Game Boy Color. I don't know. Like I get really LARPy about this kind of stuff, but I probably won't even start it. Once I open a hex editor, I'm going to give up.
Yeah,
but
it's awful.
But it is something that I want to do.
Yeah. So
well, it's difficult too. It's not just tedious.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's part of it. It's not compelling work to sit down and edit the same file because like you'll be changing the same text for maybe 50 hours or something ridiculous. Like, it would be rough. Like translating it is one thing and like putting it into a script, but then just going through the monotonous, it's basically like typesetting a game is how it is. And it's like, wow,
but it's even harder because you have to find like all the locations of the text. I mean, first of all, you have to find even which hex values correspond to which characters on your like table, basically your alphabet. I mean, it gets really complex. I watched a few tutorials on a dude. He did the series on Pokemon games and how to kind of hack those. And I mean, the fundamentals would transfer over, I imagine, but a lot of it is so specific.
Seems really tedious. Now, if you're already doing that, what you could do is you could hack one of the splash screens to show our logo instead. And like in the credits, put a link to the podcast.
Maybe, but I feel like that's I don't know.
No, that's the end page. No. I'm totally on board for that. Like,
well, that's so far down the line.
Well, because the localizers have a splash screen for like other games.
True.
So yeah, that's
or at least the logo.
You'd be the American publisher. You know, the whole Western publisher. So
There you go.
international version. So yeah, so you deserve a splash screen that links to the podcast.
Well, you can't fluff my ego up yet. I haven't even started on it. All I've done is play the game a bit.
Well, if you do.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd be interested in playing like the older Game Boy ones. It's like really hard for me to go back to a lot of old games because there's just so many like convenience things that new games do that it's hard to go back.
If you like the GBA one, then it plays very similarly. Really, the only difference is the animations or the lack thereof. But other than that, it seems very similar so far, from what I remember of the GBA one.
I just downloaded Pokemon Crystal off the eShop the other day, and I started to play it. I just put my name in and then saved. But I'm thinking about it, and it's like, oh man, there's so many things about that game that are just so tedious. It's like, in Crystal, do you have the option? I know it's not in Red and Blue, but can you click on the ocean and it asks you if you want to surf, or do you have to go to Pokemon?
No, that works in Gold and Silver and Crystal.
It does?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Like, because I remember that was rough. And I know you can't press L and R to go to like different pages of Pokemon, like, you know, flip through menus and things like that.
Yeah,
and
no.
I know there's just a ton of stuff that's like really basically a killer for me not to want to play it. But I think I'll play through a little bit of Crystal. I just did Delta mission on Pokemon Omega Ruby, catching up on all my Pokemon.
You're
and
fiending
stuff
for some Pokemon.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe I'll go through Crystal. I used to have Crystal as a kid, but I lost it on a trip one time, and I was so sad.
It happens. But I guess to close off the Medabots, or Medarot, if you prefer the original Japanese, I guess to close that off, I did want to do a little manga minute kind of thing for the anime. I just wanted to talk about it real quick.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I was actually, depending on what you were going to say, I was going to say, well, I'm going to open up the Medabots again and talk about the anime.
So I'm like 8 episodes into it or something like that. So I'm really impressed, I have to say.
It is a great translation. The voice acting is great, and it's a great show. It really is a great show. It holds up really well. Like, I remember as a kid, I liked it a lot. I actually rewatched it maybe in 2015, like all the way, and then they have a new modern updated Medabots with like better animation and stuff. It's not as good, but it's still pretty cool.
Same characters?
Same characters, but it's kind of a reboot.
That's weird. I'm watching the dub, by the way, and I wanted to say that so many people give dubs, especially of that era, such a bad name, myself included. I don't prefer them generally, but a Digimon I think I prefer, and then this one now, it's so good.
It really is. Like, the dub is great. The Medabots casting is like the best. It really is. I don't know who that voice actor is, but he did some great things. That's one of the few examples of where they really went all out with the dub. Like, you can tell the voice actors like actually liked it, and they weren't like phoning it in. You know, it's I would put it on the quality of something like Ghost Stories, where, you know,
but
voice
in a
actors
different
really,
way.
Yeah. That was a joke, but Medabots is unironically a good dub.
And they have so many good lines. I wrote down 2, but there were tons that I didn't have the presence of mind to write down. One of them is like the gym teacher's talking to the main kid. He says, "Drop and give me 20," and then he says, "Sure, got change for a 50." It's like just stupid little jokes like that. I really love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like there was a fisherman talking to, like, he had like an octopus Medabot who would like fish for him, and he's like, "You know the deal. You scale and gut them, and I eat them." It's like, how does that even make sense? But it's a good anime, and there are points of it where I swear, I think the term is sakuga, where like they up the animation quality for like just a few second blips here and there. It's like off-putting, in fact, how good some of the like little scenes are here and there.
Some of the fight scenes, like even later on, well, it's because, you know, they use their budget for that, you know.
Well, no, it's mostly not the fight scenes. I find the fight scenes to be kind of dumb, but it's just like the way like somebody will just like move around a corner if they're sneaking or something, or just like turn their head, or just like some emote that they'll make. Those are the points that I've noticed where they're cranking it up to 60 FPS somehow, and I don't know, they're just busting out more frames, I guess.
That's pretty interesting. Overall, even just the story of the anime is pretty cool. It's got enough little mystery things and world building things that I always think that a hallmark of a good story is like not so much the railroad plot that you're supposed to go on in the completely linear path that they're trying to tell, But to me, is if the world is interesting enough that there's like more things I want to know about it. Like if there's a mystery, I can't think of a Medabots example, but I always want to know more about how daily life is with Medabots.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
that's a
they
good
bring
point.
them to school. Actually, Little Badlers did this well, which is something I had a problem with Custom Robo, which is a very similar game. But with Custom Robo, when you would fight, I'm like, why wouldn't you just go in real life and shoot the person? Because they were fighting like terrorists, like world-ending
Pokemon,
terrorists.
too.
Yeah,
Like Team Rocket.
well, here's the thing. It's like with Pokemon, makes sense because a dragon can still kill you as a human. So it's
Okay,
like
yeah,
Pokemon are generally stronger than humans for the most
Yeah.
part. And if they're not, they have psychic. They could hypnotize you, especially if you're reading the Dojinis. But with Custom Robo,
The Dojinis, like some kind of Italian.
the Dojinis. With Custom Robo, it's basically the same type of game, the thing like that, but they explain it like the Custom Robos are so strong that if you don't fight it with another Custom Robo, they can like bust down a real life door. And they're tiny. They're like the size of like
They're
smaller than your
action
phone.
figures, basically.
Yeah. Well, they're smaller than that. They're
Oh,
like
okay.
the size of gacha balls or like,
They're like Ninderoids.
something like that.
Or what's the other one? Pop dudes or something?
Oh, pop vinyls?
Is that what they're called? No, those little action figures with the humongous heads.
Yeah, it's pop vinyls.
Well, that doesn't sound right, but I'll take your word for it.
I'm just thinking Pop Team Epic because we're in the
Me too. Yeah.
we're in the anime mode. But they explain it with with Little Badlers in the sense that it's like you need to stop it with another robot because somehow these things the size of your phone will like actually kill a human.
But yeah, every little kid has one. See,
Yeah.
that part gets weird.
Well, I actually, like in Little Badlers, I only played maybe an hour of it, but it's like his mom doesn't want him to get one because she knows it's dangerous and like people have died with them. So, I mean, it's like still like a thing. It kind of gives me things. It's like most kids growing up these days, these little Zoomers don't know what it was like, but we didn't have cell phones growing up. Your parents would be like, what do you need a cell phone for? Like, you're in middle school. Like, I never wanted a cell phone. I was late to getting a smartphone because I didn't think I would need it, but then I got it. I'm like, oh, God, I can't imagine not having internet everywhere I am.
Same here. I got my first real cell phone around the time I entered college, and it was like a flip phone. Couldn't do anything with it. And I was like, what do I need this for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was similar to that, where it's like everybody wants them. Yeah, and I think in Medabots in the anime too, he doesn't get his right away. Like they're expensive or something, he couldn't afford it, and he finds Medabi. Is that how he gets it?
He found the medal like a river. You know the classic anime river.
Yes.
The one with the slopes on either side.
Well, it's like a drainage bank.
That's what they look like. I don't know what they actually are. That could be it though.
A river bank.
Yeah, but he finds the metal there, and then he buys like cheap old parts, and that's what he makes Medabi out of.
So with Medabots, if you don't know, they're like little toy robots. They give you a skeleton, and you put little parts on them. Yeah, but then I was going to talk about the metal.
I see.
They have like AI, but the AI is built into like a little medallion.
That's like the soul.
Yeah, of the Medabot, and they have little personalities and things like that.
Well, I don't know how to segue you from that to the actual topic, but we should probably talk about it.
I feel like that was the actual topic at this point.
Well, see, this is all perfectly planned because the topic itself is about Omake pages. And here, the topic is being treated as an Omake to the actual topic of Medabots.
This is very meta.
You see how this is masterfully crafted here.
And it's a meta podcast about Medabots. Oh, man. Pure pottery.
Let's see. How do we even get started? We have a few disparate topics here.
All right,
Which
so
would you like to cover first?
Let's do end pages. I can probably rant about that for a little. Or not end pages. Omake pages. Yeah,
Right.
if you don't know what those are, you'll be going to like Mangadex or Kiss Manga and you see like, oh, nice updated episode of my favorite Kaguya-sama, and you'll go and you click on it and it's like, oh, a 0.05 chapter of this. Most of the time it's like 2, 4, 5 pages of just extra drawings or something, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, but I wanted a chapter. I don't care about like all these little extra drawings. It's like, that's great. Most of the time, I don't know if you can hear that thunder outside. It's raining next to the BG4U studios. But anyway, you'll go and a lot of the times these are just the extra pages that come when you buy a volume or something like that. And,
often like the artist will use them as like fun little gags or like a thank you page, something like that.
Something to fill for pages, and it's like bonus content. It's like what we do with the post show, so it's trash.
Honestly, I really don't like Omake pages that much. I feel like they're not good. They generally are kind of boring to read, very uninteresting.
I skip them 90% of the time because I'm more interested in the narrative of most things. I stare at the pictures and I read half the words. I'm more interested in the story. I'm not so much interested in the art unless it's like somebody like Nagatoro, who the author there can draw the best eyes and faces in the world. So you're like glued to that, or something like Chio-chan that we talked about this week.
You sound like the guy, Koda. Have you heard of that one? Love Collage?
No.
My weeaboo friend likes it a lot. He likes a lot of trashy romance stuff. Like, the main character, he has a crush on like 20 different girls, but it's only like one specific body part of each girl.
Oh, I have read that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you sound like. You're like, whatever one you just said.
The eyes of
Nagatoro. It's like,
yeah.
yes, the eyes. And, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's exactly like that. The problem with end pages is that most of the time, they come out with the volume and they don't come out with the chapter. So the chapter 5.5 in Omake chapter, I'm gonna keep saying end pages because I'm an idiot. But
sure.
just know that when I say end pages, I mean Omake pages.
Right.
But they come out way later than the chapters in my experience. So I'll be scrolling through and I'll see, a new chapter updated on this. And it's like, I'll go through and look at the list and I'm like, these are all these links are a different color. I've already read all these. Like it says already read. Where's the new chapter? And I'll scroll down and it's like, an Omake from 3 years ago is now translated. Great. I get 3 color photos of the main cast in a different position.
They often aren't in color.
Well, yeah, they're often not. Or they'll even be just like self-inserts of the author himself. And it's like, yeah, that's funny. Those are cool. But like put them in the main chapter because I don't need a whole nother chapter for them.
Kind of what they do there. In that case, it seems like that manga was being scanlated as it was being serialized. So it's not like those pages existed to be put inside a different chapter.
Correct. I'm not throwing shade at anybody in particular. I'm just expressing why is life like this? It's existentially angst against the fact that I just want 50 chapters to come out of my favorite mangas right now. I just want them all to be done so I can go through and read them all tonight.
Yeah, if only.
I don't want to be drip fed One Piece for the next 5 years.
I guess since we're still on late releases for these kind of like Omake pages, I want to describe to you a possible conundrum that I might be facing next month. And I want to know if you've ever even seen this, because I've never heard of this kind of thing. So when I started doing Antarctica Girls, one whole volume was out. So I used that. That one I think had like an Omake page, and it ended on chapter 4. And then I don't know why, but I was looking. I guess I found scans of the magazine for that. And that chapter 4 that month had a chapter 4.5 in the magazine, but it wasn't in the volume. Have you ever seen that?
So it was an Omake that was only in the serialization manga and not in the volume. What is it?
It's not like an Omake or junk pages, but it's like actual real content in the story.
Oh,
it was like a 0.5
weirder.
chapter. Yeah.
Well,
it was like 6 pages, I think.
But it was like story content. It was like they were cooking something in the background, or like did it have any bearing ever?
They kind of explained away like half of an episode that they didn't otherwise cover in the manga.
It leads me to believe that it's not canon.
Well, it is, but it's something that you could potentially miss as a reader and not lose the plot.
So your conundrum is, do you scanlate it or not?
Well, I did, because I just luckily found it at the right time. But I'm wondering what this volume, because volume 2 is coming out next month, and I wonder what it will hold, if it has anything like that. Like, would it start with chapter 4.5, or is it just never getting a volume release? Like,
I don't know.
It's so weird. I just don't get it. And I've never heard of anything like that.
In the exact opposite and in defiance of my previous distaste with old chapters being updated with 0.5s, I will say, for completionist sake, if there is something new like that, I'd go ahead and upload it as like a 4.5.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would, but I also don't like going out of order, but I definitely would do it.
Yeah.
And I think I might, because in between each chapter, there's also like character bios and stuff in the volume release. So I think I might take all of those bonus pages, group them all up into like a bonus chapter, and then just release them separately.
See, so that makes it more difficult in the naming contention, because like, what if a bio is supposed to be said in chapter 3, but you group it together and they're all released at chapter 9.
I don't know if it really matters. It's not like the bios have spoilers. It's birth date, birthplace, age,
Okay, yeah.
likes, dislikes. I'm talking just based on volume 1, how that worked out.
So let's give an example. Let's say you just got a bunch of extra content and maybe there's a page or two extra for each chapter. I would say go back to the end of volume 1, and whatever that last chapter is, maybe 10, you do a 10.5 with all the extra content from that whole volume.
That one wouldn't work though because... Oh wait, no, it would. Never mind. I was thinking the end of the last volume was 4.5, and there's already a chapter 4.5. But you're saying at the end of the volume 2 chapter, yeah, and that would probably be like 8 or 9. So yeah,
well,
that's
whatever,
a good idea.
whatever they're from, whatever volume they're from.
That's basically what I plan to do.
Otherwise, I mean, there are some specific chapter 4 extra omakes. When in that case, you would go back and make it specifically for that. Because if it has something to do with that chapter, you would put it for that. But if it's just character bios or like 1 or 2 pages, I never want to see an omake with 2 pages. That's a waste of a click for me. Like just put it on something else or collect them all and put them at the end of the volume. I think you could even like volume extras, chapter 10.5, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's pretty much what I had in mind. I guess my biggest fear with it is that actual content will change. I don't think that's likely. I understand that they do that with some kind of ecchi mangas where like they'll censor out like nipples or something in the manga or in the magazine release, but then they'll not censor it in the volume. I don't think I need to worry about that with anything that I cover.
No.
But in fact, that's the only kind of content I know that would change between volume and magazine releases.
It's like they retcon it to change all their names. Like,
I did actually see something where in one of the One Piece things they changed like the class of somebody's fruit or something from like Paramecia to Logia, I think. I don't know, whatever. That's dumb. But yeah, I don't think there's anything I would need to worry about in that regard. Let's see. I guess now a segue, we could kind of go into something that we haven't necessarily covered yet. It's another kind of volume only. It's not an omake, but it's kind of the cover pages. So if you don't know, manga volumes come with sleeves generally. You know how like a book will have a sleeve,
right?
And under the sleeve, they generally have on either cover, they generally have like some kind of something like a design, or I've seen ones where there's like a little 4 type thing. I think those are pretty cool, but that's something that I would group together with like the end of volume bonus chapter.
So this is actually related to that, but it's a little bit of a tangent. So when you go onto a manga aggregator site where you go to read your manga, I normally use Megadex or Kiss Manga. You'll see the picture of, most of the time it's the most recent volume's cover. And that's cool, and I think that is good practice, where it's like you'll see volume 1, and then when it switches to volume 2, they'll change the whole cover for the whole series, and it'll be like, okay, so it's still the same series, maybe you just have to get used to looking for that picture now, but it still normally shows like the main characters and stuff. Where I have a problem with a lot of different things, if it's a long-running series and has multiple volumes, they'll put like maybe a side character on that volume, or one of the side girls, and like they'll put her on the volume, and it's like that character is a character you barely see, and it gives a misleading interpretation of the entire manga, because that's volume 8 that just happens to be featuring a side character. You're like, oh yeah, that's my type of girl, so I want to read that, and this isn't even about that. I have a hard time figuring out where I stand in the premise of which type of covers do I want to send out when I'm looking for places like Kiss Manga or Megadex. Does that make any sense? Is this super autistic?
Kind of no to the first question, but definitely yes to the second question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really think about that kind of thing and to the level of detail that you do.
It's just that it's something that I thought of while you were talking about it. It's not something that I've really given much or even ever talked about before, but it's something that does bother me. All the different like manga sites will normally use a different cover anyway for each manga, so it's not like something that's...
I kind of always thought that they would use the same one for the most part, though.
I guess it depends on like when they scrape it and like if they ever re-update for that or anything like that. I don't know, but normally it's like a different thing, and some of them are more quick to update with each volume. Some of them don't. Sometimes it's like maybe volume 1 isn't a great cover, so you just use volume 2 all the time, and you never change it.
And you know what? Okay, I'm finally getting it. Full disclosure, I was only paying half attention when you went through that rant, but now I understand what you mean, and I do agree. And that's the same with Antarctica Girls, to get back to that even. The first cover is so bad. It looks like some kind of shoujo garbage. I think that's why it doesn't get clicks, but I'm hoping Volume 2 is a good cover. Yeah, it is important, I think, and I don't know who manages that or something. Maybe I'll be able to update it on Manga Dex or Manga Updates or whatever. I hope I can.
Yeah,
But,
see, I've never gone through the process of that. I don't know who's in charge of that. I don't know if it's per site basis or if it's just something that gets scraped along with, I don't know. It's very
Yeah, I think
interesting.
most of these sites are kind of collaborative, so like anyone could basically change it. But I'll let you know how it works out if I have to do it.
Absolutely.
I just want to say one little further thing on the cover insert pages, whatever they're called, the under the sleeve pages. There's one gag from the super secret Bigfoot, codenamed Bigfoot project that probably won't come out forever because I don't want to get into it. There's a gag where you take the sleeve off, and one of the panels is a joke about one of the characters being embarrassed. She says something like, "Oh no, they can see me," or whatever. I don't know.
Fourth wall break. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cute.
it was adorable. Yeah, one of these days I'll get around to that, and then you guys will know what I'm talking about.
So what's cool right now is I'd like to introduce a new one-off segment. It's the pre-show manga minute. Where
For what purpose?
that's a joke. I just want an excuse to talk about. I think it was last week or the week before we talked about Chio-chan Tsurugi no Chio's Road, which is it's just fantastic. And
Yeah, it is.
There's actually plot development in this week's episode.
Oh,
It's just
you mean manga chapter?
yes, my bad.
Because that's actually legitimately confusing with the anime having
Sure, yes.
being airing right now.
Is it out? Oh, it's airing now. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
But,
watched this week's episode today.
Yeah, so these will be spoilers. So if you care about anything of spoilers of a comedy manga, then, whatever. In chapter, I think it's 38, there's actual development. Like, Chio and Ando go on a date, and it's so adorable. Oh, I'm just reading it, and it's like I got a smile on my face. And it's like, it's so heartwarming. It's like Chio's walking to school with Marina, or whatever her name is, like Mariana.
Banana.
Yeah, it's some Jap name that I don't know. But
I don't know. Honestly, it sounds like a made up name.
I mean, it could be.
Because it sounds like banana.
Maybe it's a nickname.
It might be. She has
don't know.
monkey-like features, I feel like.
Oh, I think there's an ongoing joke about that or something. I feel like I've seen her before make a monkey face. But Chio leans over to her. It's like, oh, I think Ando asked me out on a date, but I'm not sure. And it's like they go to the shopping center to check out new video game gear, or like PC Gamer Master Race. She wanted to get new gaming mice. Banana tags along because she's intent on like not letting them get too romantic and leave her behind and stuff. And it's hilarious, and it's also adorable. There's like awkward little things in between. It's like Chio's trying on headsets. You've probably seen a picture of those headsets with the cat ears on them and the LEDs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're like-
in fact, somebody in my Japanese class had that, remember?
Yeah, I saw somebody walking down the street with them one time, which was
God.
crazy. Yeah, but she tries on those, and in the Japanese how it's like ambiguous when they leave out the subject of a sentence, and he says, and Ando's like, oh, those are cute, but those is removed, so it's just like cute, as in could be ambiguous. And then she's like, she blushes and stuff. She's like, ha, and he's like, oh, I meant the headsets. And then he goes, but you're also cute. And it's like, oh, what a badass. It's like, oh, snap. He's like being like super Chad mode. But then he's like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and scurries away. And Manana is like just disintegrating because she's like, it's draining her of her energy. In fact, the artist keeps like drawing her getting like blown away from explosions of like social backlash. It's fantastic. And eventually she just like sags down into like a puddle of goop. I can't maintain my human form anymore. Ando and Chio are moving their mouses, and she's like, oh yeah, nice. So yeah, I have to try out the mice before I buy them because they're designed by Westerners, so my hand's too small for that. And Ando goes, yeah, you have small hands. And she's like, oh yeah, you have pretty big hands. And Manana's in the background. She's like, oh no, this is on course for them to put their their hands up together. You know what I mean? To measure their hands, and they go and they put their mice up against each other. It's like that same hand holding thing, but the mice against each other. And Manana's
so
like
they're like holding the mice, and then like the bottoms of the mice are touching, basically.
Yeah. The lasers are like connected.
Yeah, you sent me that page.
Yeah, and Manana is just so. She's like, somehow this is even worse. Like, it makes her angry.
You're gonna make me have to read this now instead
it's so
of just
fantastic.
watching it weekly.
Oh, I've got more. Ando comes back from the bathroom and he sees Chio-chan like really getting into this like FPS game. You know how she freaks out and she's like really hardcore into that, and Manana's like, oh, excellent, this is a great chance for even Ando to think she's weird. And he's like, wow, you do so well at that. And he's like, it's like, I think I've seen enough of this, why don't we play a round together? And they do put their heads up, but this time instead of like a high five, Chio high fives Manana, and then she goes to high five what's his face, and they put their hands together, and he does the incredibly not safe for work lewd thing of they wrap their fingers together.
Yeah, the fingers in between.
Yeah,
he does that.
He does it, and then she reciprocates, and it's like,
dude, what a total Chad, dude.
I know, he's a total Chad, and Manana gets blasted away. In Dragon Ball Z, when they're holding back a blast and you see their hands, like, and it absorbs them and covers their face, that's what happens in the chapter.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and
it's a classic. Will they? Won't they?
That was chapter 38. Chapter 43 is untranslated, but I read the raws.
You looked at the raws, to be clear.
And they go on another date.
Oh, dude.
They go into one of those, they're just having fun in an arcade or whatever. They're both competitive. They're both like trying to do the basketball hoop thing. They'll do something else, but they go into one of the photo booths and they click two people, and it's like girl and a boy, and then it's like it has them start to do like embarrassing things, a Princess Carrie or something. It's like slowly escalating, but they're so competitive that they have to do it at that point. And so it's like awkward, and they go through that, and it's like, and finally the last one is a kiss.
Oh wow.
Yes. And Ando's like, oh, I won't force you to do that. If you don't want to do, like, you know, something like that. I don't know what he's saying, but it looked like he's like, oh, that's funny. But she pulls him down and kisses him, and it's like, ooh.
Are you sure that was chapter 43 and not from this guy's hentai spin-off of his own Chio-chan? That's pretty
dude,
lewd.
this is
We're gonna have to
canon.
censor this episode.
This is canon. It's like she dashes out and goes to get the photos, and is like really embarrassed by it. It comes back, and I don't know exactly what they're saying. Ando's like eventually confesses her. He's like, say I like you, will you go out with me? And,
whoa, hardcore, dude.
She has a funny reaction in some panel. The next panel after that is like, please take care of me, the generic thing. So they're going out, man. It's crazy. The story progress in I mean, it's not even a romance manga. That's the only place you can get romance progress is in a non-related manga, because God forbid, like, one of your rom-coms actually goes anywhere.
Well, they would have to end. Because the whole point is the thrill of the hunt, and then once the hunt ends, that's it.
Well, that's because most of the rom-com writers can't write, but that's a whole nother deal. But oh man, I was like, this was a good day reading those. It was good chapter.
Man, I don't like reading manga, but I feel very tempted to read it.
Chio-chan is like an excellent manga, and like they introduce other characters and stuff like later on. Like, how do you pronounce it? The Kabaddi, yeah. She's a recurring character that's a pervert, but she also eventually trains Ando's sister to do it.
Oh, he has a sister. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a little sister.
There's so many characters I don't even know.
I know, they're coming through. So if you have, she'll probably be in the anime, just in one of the next couple episodes probably. She's like 10 years younger than him and is like 12 years old. That's how you know he's like 23 max. Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah. There was all these like comments on the manga decks. This dropped. I'm not here for age gap romance. It's like 4 years different, and they're both like in high school. Like, it's not like but he looks older, and he's voice acted by an older dude in the anime. So I think that's where people got it. But that's, you know, that's whatever that is.
Just remember though that Ichigo is 16, so you can't tell based on how they're drawn.
Which is the dumbest thing. That in particular is so heinous to me that it's unacceptable. He looks like a 30, sometimes 45-year-old man.
No, come on, he looks like 20s.
At least late. He's 28 at least.
No, I mean, he doesn't look older than we are. or we do in real life.
He probably looks our age, and
Maybe.
we're 50-year-old boomers. So
That's true. Oh shoot, you got me.
yeah. Well, it's still, he's more accurate than the 5,000-year-old dragon. You know, that type of thing. It's like, oh, that's fine.
Well,
The legal loli.
Yeah. Well, I had a pretty good segue lined up before you went into even extra spoiler territory, spoiling manga that's not even scanlated yet.
The spoiler segment.
I was gonna say, well, talking about Chad moves, the Manga Minute manga here is pretty much all about a dude just being so Chad that like
It's awesome.
I don't even know how to describe it. It's a not a mechanic. It's like a relationship style that doesn't even exist in real life. It doesn't even make sense.
That's true. You know, it's done by the same person who does Takagi-san, which is also probably a relationship that doesn't exist in real life.
Right.
So
well, that one seems more believable.
Well, I think actually
I'll
all
let you
rom-com
explain what it is.
Basically,
Yeah.
it's called Shogai Senpai, which is Shogi.
Shogi.
Is whatever. Shogi. I had corrected it while I was saying it, but you had to put me on blast. You had to embarrass me in front of all of the passengers. It's Shogi Senpai. So Shogi is basically the Japanese version of chess. I don't know. It's complicated. There's like little drawings, and they this little, not pentagram, but
Well, it is it's like a pentagon, but probably not literally, because I think pentagons are certain. It has 5 sides, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
box with a triangle on top.
yeah, there you go. That's the best way to do it. It's their club after school, and it's only got 2 people. It's got this cute looking girl and this I guess since she is the senpai, he's the kohai, so he's younger, so she's maybe a year older, but she doesn't look it. She looks like, you know, the 5,000-year-old loli.
Well, I mean, they're like in high school, and that I mean, that's just his art style. It's not that exaggerated.
Yeah, they're in the club, and I don't even know how to describe it, really. It's basically like he'll do something that says like very just forward that he likes her without saying it. Like
he'll just say like, "You're cute," randomly. Or something like that.
And she's like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure you love me," and he's like, "I don't know about that." Like he's like, he's so forward and direct about what he's thinking, but then she'll be like, "Oh, so you like me?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know about that." Or he'll say, "I think you're reading too much into things," after he just said she's cute, she doesn't need to do anything else, like, or he wanted to walk home with her, or his whole thing that day was he finds her at her house one day. She's like carrying groceries home. And he's
I was gonna mention this.
Yeah, and he pops out of nowhere, and he's like, she says, "Fancy meeting you here. It's lucky." And he's like, "No, it's deliberate. I had business with you." And she's like, "Oh, weird." And so
he's like, "I called your home to find out where you were, and then I intercepted you here, basically."
And he's like, "Here, give me the groceries. I'll carry them for you." And she's like, she's thinking, "Oh, that's nice." And so they walk together, they have a little chat, and then they get to her house, and she's like, "Oh, what was the business that you had?" And he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to walk with you." And it's like that's the type, it's like the Chad alpha, like he does so many things that are so outgoing, which is completely the opposite of way the Japanese rom-com normally acts. The normal MC is the person that is agoraphobic, is a fear empty space. What's the one for a fear of girls? Because that's what they normally have.
Gynophobic, something like that. Like
probably like that.
Gyn.
Yeah, I think that's right. But that's the stereotypical MC trope of the Japanese mangas. But this dude's like Alpha Chad, and it's like, I don't actually know their names. I think they just go. I think they're.
Yeah, I know. It's such a short manga. It's like 20 pages total right now.
Yeah, there's 7 chapters, and each one is about 4 pages. So it's like a little short thing. It won't take you more than 30 minutes to go through the whole thing. But I definitely recommend it. He sees her sitting on the porch outside of class one day, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, senpai?" And it's like, "Oh, I saw you had a long face. You were looking sad. What's up?" And it's like, "What's worrying you?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm worried that I'm not good at stuff." This is the girl. And it's like, "I'm worried that I'm not good at stuff." And he's like, "Oh, you don't have to worry about being athletic.
He was saying like, your hair's so perfect, your smile's great, that kind of thing.
You might be bad at sports, but you're cute, so it doesn't matter." Is exactly what he says to her. And she's like, "What?" Like, he's like, "Your smile is super cute, and your face is equally beautiful. Your hair is so smoothie and silky and so fragrant," which is always a great thing to say. It's like, he's just embarrassing her. It's just is fantastic. It's clear that she likes him as well. She's trying to get him to confess, but of course he never does.
Well, he kind of says it in the first chapter. Like, it's kind of like a throwaway line, but he doesn't want to confess until he can beat her at shogi. And
yeah, exactly.
He's not good at it, and she's good at it.
Basically, he goes all out, and he tells her how cute he thinks she is and things like that, but he won't ever confess to her until he wins the shogi match. And so there's so many great little tidbits in there. It's a short manga minute for a short little manga. I think it's a fun read. It sounds like, you didn't hate it when you read it.
See, I'm really worried because you're boiling my frog into accepting the Takagi verse, and then that's a slippery slope to get down into like terrible manga.
Someday you will appreciate Nagatoro.
I don't want to, though. That's the thing.
It's like a fine wine.
And that's why I generally avoid them, because I'm scared and I don't want to get into them.
Right. Well, we'll just get you into rom-com, and then eventually you'll run out of that.
Thing. But yeah. I will say though that I do hope that this is part of the Takagi verse, just because I think that would be funny. And the guy already has like 3 or 4 mangas set in that setting. So for all we know, they go to the same school.
I think it's fair to say that. In fact, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like I've seen them in the background.
That would be so cool.
Before.
In fact,
I'm almost positive. Yeah.
One of the spin-offs is of a girl who like ships all of her classmates. It'd be cool if they had a chapter.
Now, this isn't one of the girls from that, because she has a very similar hairstyle. I almost want to go back and like double check that it's not the same girl that's in the 3-girl spinoff of Takagi. But I don't think it is.
I'm saying like it'd be cool if the spin-off main girl did an episode shipping the shogi couple.
Oh yes, I could see that.
Yeah, because I think the main Takagi pair are in that spin-off as like the targets of a few episodes or chapters.
Yes, they are. Yes.
So that would be cool. I'm just such a sucker for stupid crossovers and stuff.
It's the most ambitious crossover, even if it is the same thing. Just gonna give a quick shout out to Bushido, who is the translator and the scanlator of this manga. Right. I don't know if that's a group. I don't know if he has anything. I didn't check.
Yeah, it looks like it's just one dude. But the one shot did have like a full group to it. I didn't catch their name.
Oh shoot! I hate when they're different ones.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then I'll shout it out, and then it'll be like, oh, we just translated the latest chapter. Everybody else did this one, So, but right now,
who knows who does what?
Yeah, but if I do go back and look and they have a manga dex or anything like that, I will link it in the Manga Minute video description on YouTube. Speaking of crossovers, the most ambitious crossover ever, going back to the prologue Manga Minute preview Part 2 Electric Boogaloo that we just did on Chio-chan, I actually wanted to point out, and I don't know which one it is, but there's apparently a canon crossover from one of his hentais to Chio-chan, one of the couples.
We kind of speculated on the possibility of such a thing. I think when we did our manga
in that episode, So this is isn't a corrections corner. This is like an addendum corner, like a confirmation corner, where where it is, and I don't know which couple it is, but one of the couples from one of the doujins is the canon mother and father of one of the girls. I don't know which.
But we don't know which girl or which couple, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
We did task one of your friends with the mission to go research. But he,
I told him about it, and he said, I'll have to go peruse his works or something like that. Now I have an excuse to go peruse his works.
What frequently happens with his thing, he was super excited to go through all the stuff, but then for some reason, about halfway through, he just lost interest rapidly and decided to go do something else. So I don't know what.
And he just like closed all the tabs and stuff.
He closed all his tabs and decided to just go do something else. So I don't know why. Maybe in a today he'll go back and look through it.
I'll have to ask him. I'll check him every other day.
But I'm very interested to see which it is, and maybe I'll go read Chio-chan again, because I read that. Actually, one of my tabs open right now is Chio-chan 38 comments for that on Manga Dex. This is great.
If only our favorite manga scanlation sniper guy would translate the most recent chapters for you.
Well, we did a whole podcast about him, and this is it, man.
Step up to the plate.
There's like 30, not 30, but around 38 now, and there's at least 43 chapters out. So there's a bunch of chapters in between. I'm going to have to read normal Chio-chan chapters before we get to the culmination of the stuff I already know is going to happen. It's going to kill me. I'm dying inside. And I don't know if they're doing like us, but they might just be we're doing one a week. I don't know.
It could be, but something that would be cool actually to make the sniper business plan, quote unquote, viable would be if he coordinated with groups who have like a backlog like that, and he's like, hey, you want to like take off every other chapter and like we'll alternate? That'd be cool.
That'd be pretty sweet. He's relief freelance scanlator.
Yeah,
Dude,
like a mercenary. Yeah, see,
that'd be cool.
If only we knew to tell him that at the time. Like that would be actually a really positive way to channel his angst into something good.
Yeah. Just like, I mean, you could even do like, you just approach the scan later groups. Like they all have some form of contact. Be like, hey, are you guys still doing this chapter? Like, or I can do some of it. Do you want to do that? And then it's cool. And if they have their own website, they might even like promote your scans on it or something like that. I know there's some groups that they don't want their releases on like manga decks and all the things because they get ad revenue on their own site, which I think that's one way to make money, but it's a dumb way because your scans are going to get ripped anyway.
True.
And nobody wants to go to your site to read it. There's like one big group that does it with a lot of them. I mean, I've read it on their site before, but I couldn't get all the pages on one page, so I'm not going to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just such a weird choice to me. I understand the thinking behind it, like you said, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to add to that.
Yeah.
But on the topic of relief, scanlation, partnerships, whatever, I do have to say that this week's chapter of Sword Girl will be maybe a day late, maybe 2 days late, so Monday or Tuesday. Because I've been away from home pretty much this whole week, and I haven't had my normal work computer.
This is actually behind the scenes. We normally record in different places across the world. However, you made a special trip down to come to the big guy for you scanlation headquarters. So
I think my place is the headquarters, if anything.
Well, it's wherever I am, since I'm producer Sam.
We'll have to do an episode on idle games just for that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's the real producer, son.
Yeah. Although we don't know the technical specifics of recording in one room, so even though you're in the different office over there, even though we're in the exact same place.
So hopefully at least there's not like lag. We generally have
echo,
some bad lag. It might be line that we use to record.
Yeah. We use
that's some behind the scenes stuff.
The KCIA botnet line chat app. This would be great post-show content.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. So maybe we should wrap this up and then ramble on further.
Well, why don't you tell them where they can find our black box?
Okay, the podcast is YouTube /user/big guy #4 Anchor FM also hosts it. You could find it on like RSS feed searchers, like on the app Podcast Addict. If you want to read the manga, you can go. I always post it on Manga Decks. Big guy #4 or probably every other site rips from there. Contact, you could go to gab.ai/big guy #4 of course, and comment there or whatever. You could gab it instead of tweeting, or also that's where I post the download links for the chapters, and that's that.
Awesome. Yeah, if you want to reply, you read the Manga Dex comments for the most part, although I don't think you reply to those. Yeah. I reply, but I don't read them out loud. If you mean, well, no, I mean, I read them personally, and I was just talking about
if warranted.
Yeah, I was just talking about if you wanted to talk to us, you could get on Megadex. If you want a personal reply from me, Aidan, I reply to everything on the YouTube, and even I guess we've been reading them out loud in the passenger segment on every episode. So you can check that out. And I hope you've enjoyed your flight. Make sure your seatbelt is buckled as we crash this plane.
With no survivors.